be tonight.
Hello, we are
Joe's
broadcasting. Oh yeah,
Hello.
Joe's worst nightmare, or just
Joe's worst nightmare.
What is it? What do you call? What is the thing they call in It Follows? The thing that follows you around.
Oh,
you know,
God, yeah, it was like that. I haven't seen that, but is that the one where like they have to like watch this?
You've not seen It Follows, and you've seen like all these other horror. I thought you were a horror movie person, man. That's like...
it's on my okay. My problem is I want to watch it. It's on my Netflix queue, but it's not a movie I want to watch around my kids necessarily. Even though I drugged them to go see it.
No, no, oxymoron. I don't know. No. It's contradictory. Contradictory, TC.
I know. Maybe because isn't the premise of that movie like they get this curse unless they have sex with someone else, they're going to get nailed by this thing? Or is this the wrong movie?
Though that is the actual. That is like in a nutshell. It is not. It is not exploitive. I would not call the movie in any way exploitive. It's I would say it's very mature in the way that it deals with its topic. It's not. I feel like it looks much worse on paper than it is when you actually see it. When you actually see it, it's an atmospheric, like horror thriller that's set in like the best place to set horror movies, which is Detroit, because it's like bombed out. There's that movie, and then there's the one that was about the blind guy, the people that go rob the house with the blind guy. I forget what that one was called. It was Don't Breathe. Don't breathe. Yeah, those were both set in like Detroit, and it's just like they both came out about the same time, which is kind of weird. There were these excellent horror movies, very atmospheric, set in Detroit, and I just loved them both. So, and I haven't seen many other ones set in Detroit. I thought like, oh well, we're going to see more and more of these, sort of like urban wasteland movies that actually have like intelligent writing, directing, and it never happened, unfortunately. So,
well. Yeah, I have seen The Shape of Water, which I highly, highly recommend. That's a good one. Guillermo del Toro's new one.
And I heard you. Did you tell me that one was really good? Because I think we may have talked about it. I think you told me it was good, and I really wanted to see it for sure. So. I think we got a couple of people viewing. We got some people viewing, and I know that Carter's here. So let me get you the pop-out chat, TC, so you can see that.
Okay.
Looks like Norm is is here as well. Bonsoir.
Well, I just want to, before we get started, I want to say that we got a copy of Dungeon Pets, and me and Kate yesterday were opening it up and putting it together. And first of all, before you punch the hole out, you better match it with the animal. Whoops. But Kate found the snake kitty and just lost it. She was like, snake kitty.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad. I'm happy to hear that. It warms my heart. I hope that the game isn't like she wanted heavy games. She specifically wanted heavy games. So, I really don't think, when we mentioned it, I think we mentioned it to somebody else and they're like, ooh, that one's a pretty hefty game. But that's what she was looking for. So,
I'm thinking this one, with this one in particular, I think the theme's going to ease the heaviness of the game because the rule book's fantastic. I laughed my butt off reading that rule book, and everything in that game mechanically really matches up with the theme really well. And I'm thinking, well, this should work. I'm thinking it will work. We'll see, but I'm highly optimistic. I've got an enthusiastic 14-year-old. I couldn't ask for anything more. Even if it crashes and burns, I'm going to get some quality time with my daughter. Thank you.
Yeah. And I really don't think it's going to. Like, I wouldn't recommend it, but just in the end, I think you will get that quality time regardless. It's, it's going to be a good time. And she gets to play with Snake Kitty.
Snake Kitty, that sold her. When you said Snake Kitty, it was just like, she was like, Snake Kitty.
Am I being heard?
You are being heard, yes.
Hello,
you're being heard. It sounds a little bit...
You sound deep,
different, a little buzzy. Awesome. And awesome as always.
Okay, I'm not sure what the difference is, so...
Me neither. I'm not hearing any echo, so it just is a little different. I didn't know if there's nothing different. So...
No.
All right. Well, I can hear you. I can make out what you're saying. So,
let's do it.
Hey, Trent, how's it going?
Yeah. So, let's see here. I wrote up quite a few games, but I wrote this up. So I'm going to kind of go a little bit off script here, or I guess on script. I'm going to try to kind of stick to it to a certain extent, and because I did put quite a few on here, and I did not want to diverge so much that I made this go on and into the wee hours of the night. So I've got.
Do we have no Norman night?
Norm's here.
Oh, he is? Okay, I haven't heard him.
You mean?
Yeah, there's Norm and Ryan. They're both there.
No, he's Norm is on the next episode. That's next episode that he's joining.
Other Norm. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, then I must have added to the wrong document.
Really? No, you're in this document. You're reviewing Star Trek Ascendancy.
That's me.
No, I'm sorry. You're Table Battles or Agricola Master of Britain. Sorry, you changed that TC. I've already posted your TC. I'm sorry, but you're already committed to reviewing. Let's see here. What was it that I put down for you?
Oh, World in Flames after 50 plays. That's like my whole life. I would never talk or review about any game ever if I played World in Flames 50 plays.
Oh, darn it. I did it. World in Flames 50 plays in.
Okay, here it is. Here we go. Here's how it would happen. Well, this week I moved 3 armies. Let me know what's going to happen. Let you know what happens next week.
What was the hype that I wrote in for you? It's listed in the episode description. I'm on it right now.
I got Table Battles and Master of Britain, Agricola Master of Britain.
Oh, you're gonna hype Bounceball, which is the beautiful game.
Oh, Bounceball. Oh,
Bounceball, the Kickstarter game that is literally like, was it $80 for like a bucket and a ball?
Oh yeah, I remember that. I'm gonna hype that.
Shipping was additional, but it was like a board, a bucket, and a ball for $60 or $80. You got to pay shipping. You have to pay to have a 5-gallon bucket shipped to you. Because you can't just pick one of those up in the store.
Yes, I'm hyping this.
Yep, it'll be
game
beautiful.
Of the year, right? Game of the year.
So it's in our chat. We do have so far Norm and Carter. So I think we got a couple more viewers here. Maybe they'll pop into the chat. But I'm going to do a countdown because now that I edit, I'm going to try to space out my 3, 2, 1 a little more because I'm having a hard time finding that. I spend 10 minutes searching for where our episode starts when I go to edit. So,
well, that sounds familiar.
No kidding. Yeah, I need to. Yeah, need to be very careful about that. Okay, so. And Trent, I think I said it before. I'm going to be going on script here just to make sure I keep going. But I've got disappointments. TC, I think you like starting with those, right?
Yes, that's always a good place to start.
I have a big, not an exhaustive list, but a list of games that came to mind of ones that I've not played from last year. So, ones that are not popping up ones that are not being omitted intentionally. So, I will say those. And anyhow. Go ahead and get started now. So, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm the host, and somehow this episode's going to focus on me tonight by some mistake somebody made in planning. I'm Joe Sallen. Or just lazy. I'm Joe Sallen. I'm being joined tonight. That's out on the Portland West Coast there, where he is in an interesting, weird, and beautiful town. And TC, how are you doing tonight?
Very good. I almost forgot we were podcasting tonight. Thank you for
reminding
that.
Me. Yeah, that was sweet because I only spent last night. I spent 2-3 hours putting together this list and everything. And when I got that list, I got that message "Are we recording tonight?" And I was like.
Sorry.
The reaction was a large breathe through my nose, like.
Oh yeah. You got to reward your hard work by saying I can't make it, right?
Oh yeah, last minute, please too. Last minute. Oh wait, we're not recording, are we? Oh. TC, you're not the type of guy to do that. That's TC Reed, everybody.
Good to see you, Joe.
So, yeah, good to be here with you. And I've also got Trent Ham. And Trent, you have been saving the world, and you missed our last episode, but right or
Yeah,
but now
I wasn't here last week for a personal emergency. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, he was saving the world. He's not going to say it himself, but he was definitely doing some good. So anyway, that's Trent. I'm glad that sort of situation that you were able to help, and also people will be looking forward to hearing back from you after that week off. So I myself am looking forward to that. Tonight's topic. Yeah, here we go. Tonight's topic. My top games of 2017. I said top 10 because I feel like for some reason people are going to click on it for that. I've just become such a sellout to those top 10 things, but I'm not actually going to change my format. I've got the amount of games I felt like putting on here, organized the way I felt like doing it, and we'll get to that once we actually finish our review section at the front here. But that's one of my favorite parts, so let's not get through that too quickly. Before we get started with that, thanks to our sponsor, Game Surplus. Go check them out, gamesurplus.com. Go to the podcast picks, find the Good, the Board, and the Ugly podcast picks. Type in Good Board Ugly Picks in the coupons. That's all one word, Good Board Ugly Picks. You'll be able to get 10% off. They're already discounted prices, free shipping at $90. Pretty good place to get your games. So, gamesurplus.com. Go check them out. Let's go ahead and kick it off with reviews with the guy who missed last week because I want to hear your sweet, bassy voice, Trent, and not just to quote Tuesdays with Maury.
Okay. I'm actually not sure what to review right now, so I guess I'll go with Table Battles. So, Table Battles is a game published by Hollandspiel and designed by the primary operator of Hollandspiel, Tom Russell. Table Battles is a 2-player simple card dueling game, honestly, with a different theme that's honestly could have been any number of things, because it feels like it feels a lot like a 2-player card battling duel game is what it feels like. Ascension, or not Ascension, like Legend of the Five Rings or anything like that, except you don't build your own deck. You start off with all your cards on the table. After that, it feels like a card dueling game to me because you're going back and forth, taking turns, performing actions, and so on. What you essentially do is you have the table battles are meant to recreate historical battles. And so at the start of the game tells you, oh, you have this army and the other player has this army. Or you have these 2 armies and the other player just has 1 army. An army is represented by a set of some number of cards, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, something like that, depending on the specific army. So you start off with some number of cards in play. Each card has a number of hit points on it. And there's a number of special abilities that they each have and so forth. But what's interesting is it says on each card who they're able to target on the other side of the table. So your card will say something like, I can only target 3 of your 6 units with this card that I have, or I can only target 2 of your 6 units with this other card. But they're specific ones. So the way the game goes is it goes back and forth where you're basically rolling dice and then assigning those dice to cards in front of you. And then the other player goes and they can roll dice and assign them to their cards. And then it comes back to you and you resolve any of the dice that you so choose to resolve. So you might be able to take some of the dice off of some of the cards and some effect will happen. Like you take 2 dice off of one of the cards that can attack another card and it does 2 damage to them. Now they might have some dice on there and they might have an effect that lets them defend or not. There's different effects on all the cards. But the key is when you remove the dice and you have them back in your pool and you can roll again and put them back on other cards. However you want it. If you leave them on the cards to build up, and there are reasons to do that, that means on your turn you're rolling fewer dice. You have a max of only 6 dice with which you can roll and assign. So there's this kind of back and forth in terms of like what you're going to do with your resources. And the game plays very quickly. And before you know it, the game's over and you're on to the next one. It's a very quick playing, very straightforward game, nothing complicated about it. It's something that I think could make a good family game, especially for a family that likes, for lack of a better way of putting it, historically accurate games. I really enjoyed it. I had the opportunity to play it with Andy, who's in here tonight, in the past few days, and then also with my own family. And it's been a pretty big hit for what it is. With all of them. It's like a really nice little 15-minute game, presents some interesting choices, reenacts the historical battles somewhat abstractly, but also in more detail than you might expect, because the targeting rules effectively mirror what you might find on a table battle. Like one unit that can't be basically only be targeted by only one of your units might be theoretically something hiding behind a hill, and that's the way the game represents it, is that it can only be targeted by a long-range unit. And that's effectively what the targeting rules in the cards mean, that you can only use this card to attack 2 other cards on the other side of the table. And it just adds up to a nice, light little game. It was almost not even what I was expecting from Hollandspiel in this lightness. I like that there are a number of scenarios in the game that present different battles. Both of the battles are fairly replayable. It's kind of fun to switch sides and try them again. You're going to get a fair amount of play out of the box. The components are fairly straightforward. They're Hollandspiel quality. They're like what I would describe as a really nice print and play. Is pretty much the level of quality of most of their productions, which is perfectly fine. That's what they're shooting for. The only odd thing I found is the components. The hit points in this game are weirdly represented by these like matchstick pieces that you sit out in front of the cards. It's kind of a weird way to represent hit points, but
they're like really long. You're right. Like matchsticks is a good word, and it is kind of bizarre.
I'm assuming that just must be the component he found at the right price, is my guess. I mean, it kind of works. You can set them out in front of the card, and it looks like a hit point bar in a video game, role-playing game or something like that, kind of. But I just found it to be a nice little light game that's fun to play. It's a lot of dice rolling. There's a fair amount of luck in the determination. Both games I played, I felt like somebody got 3 or 4 good rolls in a row and won. But as quick as it plays and as interesting as some of the things are going on in it, and it's very straightforward to teach and learn, I can't really complain with it. And that's Table Battles from Hollandspiel.
Yeah, I've gotten a chance to play this a couple of times, and I say my feelings mirror your own. I would say that it's a little bit less in what I would call my particular wheelhouse. So I think that you sound a little bit more optimistic than I generally was. It was fine. I would say that we were still working out a lot of the different rules, which it's kind of beautiful how short the rule book is, but it tends to leave a little bit of ambiguity and definitely some space for some easy wrong readings. So I think, like you said, Trent, just kind of expect something on the level of a really nice print and play. And you're going to be very happy with this. I think that what's cool about the system is that it is going further than it doesn't go as far as the really in-depth, difficult, high bar of entry simulation battles, but you are largely playing a simulation in the abstract of battles, and these battles can range from a lot of these are like medieval, ancient battles, and it can go across different time periods. So it's a very simple system, but I like how much it can be molded to different time frames, and in general, it's definitely one that's I wouldn't turn down actively. I just feel like it's a decent little 2-player filler to play in between something else. And I don't know if it's the best at doing that, but it definitely, is something unique, and that's what you expect from Hollandspiel. So I agree with your review. TC, is this this seems like one that I feel like you and your wife would just, this could be like your 2-player go-to.
Yeah, the more you guys talk about this one, the more interested I am to play it. I just got to find a copy, go to Hollandspiel and find it. But yeah, you've talked about it, all you guys. It's like every time you guys, it's like that 4X. I'm like, man, I need to get this game to the table.
Oh, dude, 4X is something else. 4X is really cool. It really is. Like I was surprised, Trent, that 4X didn't pop up on your games of the year.
It did. I think it was fairly high up, if I remember right.
Okay, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I forget things. All right.
I thought it was fairly high up, but maybe not. I don't know.
That was a long time ago.
Sure. Yeah,
it was
time
ago, and it got mid-December. Far away.
Like a month ago. So yeah.
You can't expect me to remember a month ago.
Of course not.
Especially at our age.
Well, TC, now it's up to you to tell us all about, what do you know? Another box of stuff from your favorite. You and Jonathan would have just, you guys, I wish there was a way for us to get you together, because I feel like in a large way, Gale Force 9 was like his homeboys, and you've largely taken over that role. So tell us about your favorite game from your new homeboys.
Okay, well, this is just a first impression. I talked to Curse about this, see if she wanted to come on and talk about it, but we only played it twice, and we really wanted to play it a little bit more before we get really in-depth to it, because she wants to be on to talk about it. But I want to briefly talk about the newest expansion of Star Trek Ascendancy, which is Borg Assimilation.
Woot!
Groot.
I like it.
Okay, wait. The biggest change the Borg assimilation does is it changes the base game from a 3-player only game to a 1 or 2-player game. Because what the Borg are doing, it's an NPC faction that's completely automated on its own. So me and Carissa tried it with the Borg as the 3rd player, and it was good. There were some problems. The problem with the game comes in that there's these cards that you pull that tell you how the Borg activate. And some of them were a little hazy. I mean, they weren't completely unclear, but it's like, this is going to do this or this, so we need some clarification here. Other than that, it adds an interesting dimension to the game where you're just not eyeballing each other. You're like, there's this cube going down on me. If it attacks me, if you get assimilated by these guys, you actively play them. So you're like, we got to help me with this, or I'm going to be coming after you as the Borg. It's going to be nasty. And it added quite a bit of length to the game. It added quite a bit of... It made it longer, and I wouldn't say it was more interesting or fun, but it made it different. And that's pretty interesting. I want to play it a few more times to see if I can't get some more clarifications on the rules questions we had. But if you're a Star Trek fan, and you don't have 3 people to play this game with, because the base game essentially does require 3, and you just got you and someone else, like you're a 2-player, you want to try it solo, it seems to be fairly functional that way. I haven't tried it solo. I've only tried it 2. I'm curious to try it at 4 to see if the Borg playing the 5th player, how that's going to change things up. It seems like it's going to be chaotic as all get out, which is what I like in these type of games. So first impressions is generally positive. I do think it's a little overpriced for what they're selling at. I think it's like $50. Like, that's a little much for that. But the components are really good. The Borg cubes look like the Borg cubes. The mechanics for how the Borg fight are good. It's solid. I just want to get a few more plays underneath me before I really go in depth on it. But so far, it seems to be fairly good.
Sounds like the britches are getting a little big for Gale Force 9's design ambitions.
It's possible. Oh, and then they also announced the next 2 expansions for Ascendancy going to be the Andorians and the Vulcans. We'll probably see those in 2020.
Take that. Well, now they're actually having to design games and not just print a whole bunch of stuff onto cards and use the artwork from the movies. So, I mean, it's getting kind of tough, man.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I don't know if they're, because that Doctor Who board game came out, and it only shipped with 4 doctors, and there's 13 of them. So I'm wondering if their resources are going to be a little bit preoccupied pumping out expansions for Doctor Who this year. We'll see. And I think they've also got I was looking, they had the Dungeons and Dragons license to print accessories to their role-playing game.
Uh-huh.
So I just went there to look at what's coming out. It's all this D&D stuff. So I need to look into that. Cool. So yeah, it seems like Skullforce Line, if they can get their shipping schedule together, they might have a pretty good year this year. But I am a little pessimistic.
I'm weirded out by the choice of using the Vulcans because they're already kind of wrapped into the Federation.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was an interesting choice. I mean, so are the Andorians for that matter. So, we'll see.
I figured they'd have the Dominion, but maybe they're going to wait and save that for another larger box like the Borg was.
Yeah, that's the rumors that the Dominion's going to be another NPC faction like the Borg.
I hope so. I think that'd be the right way to do them.
So, yeah. But anyway, a Borg assimilation, a Star Trek fan, you like the Borg. The biggest complaint my daughter had is she just couldn't outright play the Borg.
She just wants to be evil, TC. Just let the girl be evil.
Yeah, and also thanks to you, since we're getting dungeon pets on the table, she says, I want to play a game where I can be evil. I'm like, well, if you like dungeon pets, there's dungeon lords.
Oh, that is so perfect, man. Yeah. That is great.
I hear Cool Mini or Not's latest Kickstarter would be perfect for that.
I
went there.
You know what, though? Yeah.
Is it
cooking
hate?
Up people or torturing them to death? Yes.
Well, we'll see. Hey, Kate, we can torture people. Awesome. We're in.
It's, people have been comparing it kind of to like Kingdom Death Monster, and I would say, yeah, the things that you do seem horrible, but at least it doesn't really seem to have that sort of like objectification of women that I see in Kingdom Death Monster. So I don't know. Personal.
I wouldn't know. I don't have the $400,000 to buy a copy of Kingdom Death Monster to actually see for myself.
Well, before I do my review, I wanted to say happy birthday to Christine, Andy's wife. A great day. Anyhow, my review is going to be of This War of Mine, which TC, I don't know why, but this one speaks directly to you because it is just like a game that's just going to like hurt you. And you're going to be like, you're going to be forced with like these just horrible passages that you have to read, and everything is just going to rip your heart apart. And sometimes you're going to keep going through an encounter, and the further you go, the more you're like, should we stop? Should we stop? I feel like we're committed. And if you go through to the end, there's almost always just like, you know, congratulations, you did something horrible, and you get this good stuff, and these people are probably going to die because of you.
God, that sounds just like the video, man.
Yeah, it is. So I got a chance to show it to a group of people that were all new players, including my little brother. This is when I was over in Cedar Rapids visiting him. It was a really interesting experience, and I would say that my experience really led me to compare this one to like Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe uses like a deck of cards to determine your encounters and stuff. And they're really, really cool. And I love the way that they like work into the story. Here, you've just kind of got a book of encounters that takes that place. It has a really frustrating system of rules that, you know, you just give it some time and it'll be okay. Because a lot of the rules are hidden in that book of encounters in a weird kind of decision. And they seem really passionate about this decision to try to make the game more accessible by hiding the rules, which seems kind of funny because the game is really complicated and difficult to play. And when you hide those rules, they just kind of make it more difficult because otherwise players just kind of play through with like, you know, just kind of playing with the ambiguity in their favor. And generally the game seems to always want to work against you. So there are times when you're like, I'm not sure, I don't know the game well enough to know if this is supposed to be good for me or bad for me because I know the game hates me. And I know the game would want me to play it bad, but I don't know which one's really bad. So I'll just go with whatever. Anyway, we had just a really, I don't want to say like a grand old time, but we had, you know, like it was those same types of decisions, like where you're wondering like, how do we build up this bombed out shell of a place that we're living in? How do we add the things that will be best for us to help us be the most efficient in getting food and getting water and you know, like not getting killed and being able to defend ourselves against the night raids that always happen. I'm really interested to see where the direction is going to head with a lot of the different Kickstarter. Well, there were not Kickstarter exclusive anything, but it was like well, there was some, but I'm not talking about that. There's a lot of different like expansions that added new dimensions to the game. And I'm really looking forward just to trying those. To me, like, you know, I really love Robinson Crusoe. And I feel like this year I was hoping to get another Robinson Crusoe with First Martians. And I still haven't played it, so I don't know. But let's just say that I've got another one on my plate first, and that would be This War of Mine. I really want to explore this system. The storytelling is at an extremely high level, and that's what's most important in a game with a book of scripts. It's extremely well written, and I just love, like, every time I was in the book, I just wanted to keep on going through the book and checking out the different things it had to offer. And that's, to me, is a sign of a great story in a game that's where its story is really taking the centerpiece, but it has solid enough mechanics for me to invest in the experience.
Have you played the video game?
I just downloaded it, but I've not played it.
Okay, just curious.
Have you?
I have played both. I think that I find the board game more engaging.
Interesting. That's kind of an accomplishment. It definitely seems like I read the list of what those guys that designed the game have played, and they listed like 7 or 8 games that are all like, you know, hot topic games right now, like Gloomhaven, Seventh Continent. They of course mentioned like the classic snooze fest, in my opinion, of the Tales of the Arabian Nights, and of so many other like Above and Below, other storytelling games. So it was clear that like their finger on the pulse of the storytelling renaissance that's going on right now.
Here's my nutshell review of This War of Mine. It's the best storytelling game that has yet been made. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Whoa.
The best, period, of storytelling games that have yet been made. If you want a game that is going to just, you're concerned about story more than anything else, and you want a really good, compelling story that's actually meaningful, play this one.
Mm-hmm. You mean like a pre-constructed story, not one that you create yourself? Like, okay,
where you're like going through a story that's kind of like written out for you, and you're going through it and exploring it through video or board game mechanisms. This is the best one they've ever done. That anyone's ever done that I've ever played.
Very high praise.
And yeah, so
yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked. I'm taken aback by that. Board games are getting closer and closer to the experiences that were previously only available with a living, skin and bones dungeon master to carry you through. I'm not saying they're getting better than they were. They're getting a lot better. I'm not saying that they're overtaking that, but they are getting better. And a board game telling a story is, I think, something that is really special and something fairly new.
Yeah, I've also heard that it's a pretty rough to get through. Is that true, Trent? That it's like a pretty rough. You're like, oh man, this is harsh.
Yes, I mean that's the theme of the game. It's about it's basically a game about post-traumatic stress disorder. Let's be honest. That's what it's about.
Yeah, it almost is like the author of the game sort of like unpacking a lot of these PTSD sort of types of events. And yeah, even the ones that don't leave you with any game state that's any worse will still have you just like having your heart ripped in half because of the individuals that you observe, that like you look at these people and they are in a terrible spot. So yeah, it has game mechanisms for like, you have a certain level of misery, and you have a level of empathy, which is kind of like your resistance to misery. The higher your empathy is, the more that you're going to be affected by bad events. And it's based on a die roll. A lot of these things are based on a dice, based on dice, but it's really strange. Like you can eat a dog in this game. You can start with a pet dog, and at any point you can turn it into 4 pieces of raw food and then immediately roll to see if your misery gets risen. And it is, it's that type of thing. It even says in the rule book, like with an exclamation point, we hope you don't ever use this rule that you can cook up a dog. Well, that's This War of Mine, and that's my review. But it's kind of a segue into my top 10 games, which is definitely a loose interpretation of the number 10. I'm going to talk about quite a few games. Yeah. So it's going to pop up on my list. The way that I decided to organize my list was I put every game on here that I thought was remarkable from this year, a remarkable game. And, ones that rose above, ones that I consider putting on my top games of all time. No, as a matter of fact, I would say these ones will make it on my top games of all time. They will certainly make it on there. These, in a way, it's going to be kind of new additions, but that list tends to shake out and be different every year I do it. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it this year. The way that I organized it was in tiers. Because for me, it's, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, I did not number it like that. I feel like numbering gets really arbitrary, and I end up choosing between, apples and oranges. And I love them both. I just have different places and different environments I would play each one. So I'm going to do it in tiers. I've got 4 different tiers, each one with roughly 5 games on it. I will first tell you all the games I didn't play so that you don't send me angry emails telling me, why didn't you play this game? So, and then I will go into my 5 biggest disappointments of the year, and I will finish her up. Well, not finish her up. I'll then go into the meat of my list, finishing with my tier 1. So starting at the lowest tier, my tier 4, and going up to tier 1. All right.
Wow.
So
you put a lot of work into this.
It has tiers.
It has tiers.
Well, it does that instead of having numbers. Like that way, I would say that's a cop out in a way. So it made it so that I could put several games at the same level, and not have to do ties and stuff like that. So, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I lied. 5 tiers. 5 tiers. So there's 5 different tiers. All right. My games that I have not yet played. Games that I haven't really gotten a chance to check out, and so ones that you will not see pop up on here are the Uwe Rosenberg game Newsfjord, The Seventh Continent, which I'm participating in the new Kickstarter, but haven't got it yet. Haven't got a chance to play Charterstone. Too Many Bones, I've never played. Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Though I am, as we mentioned in the comments before, just about halfway through with Pandemic Legacy Season 1 and having a real blast. I haven't played.
Colonel Sanders had a real bad day.
Yeah, we named our Colonel Sanders, and unfortunately, yeah, he had a bad day and then another bad day afterwards, and we ended up destroying our first character. And last night I was talking with somebody who never destroyed a character in their whole game. And it was like, this was really unlucky, but yeah.
Who ripped him
I
up?
never got a chance to finish Season 1, but Season 2, I have no idea, but it looks really cool, and I do enjoy Season 1. Azul. I've never played Azul. It looks beautiful. Want to try that? Near and Far. So a storytelling game. I'm seeing that I really enjoy the storytelling aspects in a lot of games, but I need something to keep me interested beyond just stories, and I want the stories to carry me through. But anyhow, Above and Below was not one of my favorites, but I figured I'd try Near and Far, and anyway, I didn't get a chance to yet, so it's not on here. Noria, did not get a chance to try that. Altiplano. Sunday, yes, I would love to try Noria with you on Sunday. So maybe I can even update the list later on. Altiplano, Pulsar 2849, and there's a lot of other ones that could surprise me or that I've slipped my mind. But I know that every game that I've played, I looked through all of my plays in 2017 and put all the remarkable games on this list. Anyway, Magic Maze, I suppose, is one that very well could make it. I've played it like once, but I didn't feel it gave me a good idea for it. But it's a really cool idea. Almost has a Space Alert type element of where it restricts what you can do in a cooperative game in a way that really makes it cooperative and not just, a puzzle that can be alpha gamed. So there's a few expansions that I didn't get a chance to play. Marco Polo is one of them. Isle of Skye, Journeyman. I didn't get a chance to try that, but there's many other expansions. So anyway, you won't see a lot of expansions on this list, and I never made an exhaustive list because it felt like there was just a ton of expansions that came out of Destiny this year that I never got to track. Starting with the disappointments. Number 5. And I'm really I'm just gonna say what I have to say, and I'll give you guys a chance to comment, and then I'll go on to the next
Joe,
one.
if one of my games I recommended isn't on this list, I'm going to be highly disappointed.
I think you're going to be disappointed, TC.
I didn't do my job last year.
TC, daggers are coming, so get up your guard. But there has to be expectations for there to be a disappointment.
The best way to deal with Joe is just to have low expectations.
There you go. Everybody listening.
You were pretty much begging for that one, Joe. You're pretty much begging for that one.
You made it better. Before that, it was like I looked really mean, and now I just look like an idiot, which is more appropriate. So, all right. My number 5 disappointment is Yamatai. This game, to me, was just like a mess of a bunch of people who had to come into work, had to do something, wanted to make another 5 Tribes, but didn't really have a good engine to build off of like they did with Mancala. In 5 Tribes, and instead we ended up with an uninspired Euro sandbox with ridiculous superpowers and a draggy board development. There's a bunch of cool ideas that were poorly executed and mashed together, but it's pretty in that 5 Tribes way.
From Days of Wonder. Is that the Days of Wonder game? Yes, it is. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And by Bruno Cathala. Okay, I'm just filling in the gaps here. Okay, cool.
Okay, yeah. And I'll give you... So my next one, disappointment number 4, is called Outlive. It was a Kickstarter, and anyway, I really wanted to like Outlive. I did. It was elegant, had a tight pseudo rondelle, but it had this sort of a turd mixed into its whole formula in the form of a building process that involved horribly efficient rooms. When I'm getting more rewarded by gaming the system and getting all my stuff late game to avoid it causing leaks from the beginning, I'm a little disappointed by that. A game where more workers is less efficient could sound cool on paper, but in practice, doing less stuff isn't very entertaining.
Wow, never heard of this one.
Nope, me either.
It's by Gregory Oliver. Don't recognize the designer.
I did want to say I agreed with you largely on Yamatai. It's like Yamatai is like 5 Tribes' bad cousin. and I liked 5 Tribes reasonably well, but Yamatai was just like, no. So I just wanted to back that up there.
I couldn't find anything to really like about it. It was just very much a disappointment. So that's disappointment number 5. Yamatai, disappointment number 4, Outlive. Now on to number 3, Ethnos. This has been actually making a lot of people's top list of the year that I've been following. And my comments on it are, it's Top Deck Hero, the board game. All good fun while there are cards to actually draft, which happens only at the beginning of the game and when players have already drawn poorly. Waiting for opponents' misfortune to have any real choices feels awful. I love how many directions the system is explored with in the variable races. It's like planning a 5-course meal around a box of chicken McNuggets.
It's got Minotaurs.
I actually like the Minotaurs. I like all the races.
I really like Radis. This felt to me like Radis, except hey, let's introduce a bunch of top decking to Radis. And
yeah, that actually is a really good point, because Radis has a very similar sort of area control aspect to it. But
I see no reason to own this in a world where Radis exists. So I'll leave it at that.
Of the cards drawn in the game, I feel like so many of them are just right off the top of the deck.
Yeah,
and it's I get one card, and you're wanting to get the same color or the same, race, the same fantasy race. And if that doesn't happen, you're just like, oh, now I have to make a decision, and my decision is going to invariably end up with making things available to my opponents. So it's like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. That to me,
yeah, you either top deck what you want and you win, or you don't top deck what you want and you help your opponents win.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the whole game, and it's no.
No, it's a cool mini or not game. You think they're just riding the wave on that one?
I don't know, man. I honestly think it's Paolo Mori, who I think is a designer with some credit behind him. I just think that it's a really well designed game with a core gameplay flaw that involves just too much drawing off the top of the deck, and it makes me not even care and not want to sit there and wait to see how it all plays out. You end up shuffling the deck 3 times and playing through 3 rounds, and at the start of the round there's 8 cards available, and then they just dry up and it gets to where there's nothing. Just nothing. And it's just on my turn I draw a card off the top of the deck. And that happens so much. Unacceptable.
So I gotta point out, so far your lists have been, you've named 2 games that are just paler versions of other games, in my opinion. So I'm with you so far.
Okay, I haven't even heard of them. So
I don't know how this next one will go, but my disappointment number 2 is Century Spice Road.
Oh my word!
I can agree with you on this one.
Okay, to me, any interesting hand building in this game, which it does have a pretty cool hand management, picking it up system, it's quickly ferried away by a drafting line that calls to mind my frustrations with Ascension-style deck builders.
It's one of those games I just have no interest in ever playing again. I feel like I'm being very negative, but I'm with you.
It color cube conversion is what it ended up being for me. I'm like, I turn this cube to this, that, and I cash them in for victor points. I get this coin if there happens to be one. Oh, you didn't put the coins in the right spot. Okay, we got to go there. And then, okay, wow.
It's the engine that you're building seems cool, but the way that you're getting these cards is just from this random row. So I can't even really invest in the system that you're talking about there, TC. Because it's anything I pick up, and some of these cards are objectively worse or better than other cards. You have cards that have identical functions but different costs, as I recall. And I really that really irks me when that type of stuff happens.
Not only that, but you have to if you see a card you want that's going to be good, I think you have to pay more for it and leave a trail of spice or something, be able to pick it up.
Yeah. If you have the cubes,
and if not, it's going to get picked up, and It's a filler game that if I never see again, I'm fine with. Even when they rethemed it to Gollum Spice Road, I'm like, okay.
I don't know.
For me, it fulfilled it and scratched the same exact itch that Splendor scratches.
Which is a game that you hate and never want to play again.
Yeah, you want to guess what itch that is that I'm scratching when I'm thinking of either games?
Scabies.
Really could be, yeah. I mean, I know that it's really hit hard for a lot of people. I saw a really weird, what I thought a bizarre evaluation where somebody was describing Century Spice Road versus Splendor, and they were like, all right, well, Century Spice Road's kind of like a heavier game than Splendor. And I was just like, no, it's not. Absolutely not. So I shouted at my TV then.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't think it was
Joe sat at home shaking his fist and shouting.
Yeah, and just think, it's the first of a trilogy, so we got more to look forward to, Joe. It's gonna be great.
You know
there's
what,
even more.
They might fix it for me. I don't know. I mean, of course, the first thing they'll have to tell me to make me think they won't is you can reuse your playmat. Because that's my main issue with the game. So, but that's disappointment number 2 for me, Century Spice Road. And then my disappointment number 1, I said a little bit more about this one than I'd done the others because I honestly feel like I had very, very high expectations for this game. Very, very high. And it really fell flat. And I think that it's probably just more of it's not for me, but it's really, really not for me. And my frustrations with it, like, they caused me to put it at number 1 here. And that game is Keeper. That's Keyper.
That's not what I expected. Okay, all right.
Keeper.
No, it's not.
Like a flower game or something?
That was not the game I expected you to say.
It's not Time of Crisis. It really is
That's
not.
what
And
I
here's
thought
why,
you were going to say.
It's not Time of Crisis because you know what? Like, to me, I knew going into Time of Crisis, like, people warned me about, like, the dice combat. Like, everything about it that people told me to sell it to me, it was like, well, I like this aspect to it, but, it does have dice combat. Just know that. And it's like, okay, well, fine.
I think, I didn't think it'd be number 1 simply because you said, I think I remember you saying Time of Crisis was 90% a good game.
Yes.
I think is what you said, or something like that.
Honestly, that 90% of a good game is something where I just need to play it and play it and play it. And I think that my frustrations I might see that the dice combat is not quite as bad. I don't know. I mean, the events and stuff still frustrate me, but no, I didn't think of it as like this huge disappointment. As a matter of fact, it's a game that I'll still play. And I could not see myself playing Keeper probably ever again.
Tell me about Keeper. Is it a Keyflower game? What is this? Come on. I want to hear.
The thing is, Keeper is a game that has a lot of buzzwords that sound great on paper. It's a worker placement game where your workers are all unique. They all have their different colors. And in the version I got the Meeple version, which was it was a pretty penny. But they're actually like painted miniature, not painted miniatures, but painted meeples from Meeple Source. Anyhow, so it's got individual workers that are all, different. When you place them on specific areas, you get a bonus if they're the right color and matches the color of the place. It has boards that are like from some, I think it's like a kids company. It's like Jacob's Ladders where you can like fold them and you can just kind of keep folding them in like a circular, like where you fold them and then you can fold them from there and fold them from there and fold them from there. And you just kind of keep folding them until you're back where you started without ever going backwards. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like it has folds in a half, there's like 16 squares, 16 little hexes. So it's a 4x4 grid and each one of them can kind of bend in different directions. It's a really interesting looking, piece. But they're like 4 of them included in the game, and each player is going to place one out. And honestly, I didn't even feel like they were very different from one another. As a matter of fact, several times we would end up with 2 literally identical boards on the table at the same time. And that happened in like every single round. What you're actually doing is you're building tiles and acquiring tiles all from, like I said, fairly simple worker placement. It has like I place a worker and then you follow me. And I just absolutely thought that was frustrating. It almost sort of like just led people to just be like, sure, I'll follow you. Sure, I'll follow you. Because once all your workers are placed, now you can do this awesome thing and lay them down. And now you get like stronger actions. It just seemed like a game where you just like get lots and lots and lots and lots of crap. And then it's like later on, you're trying to figure out how to use it. But it's like you got so much crap and the game just showers you with crap. Well, let's play like this. It feels like it has no difficulty difference. Let me just read what I've got here because I feel like I've hit some of the points. All right, so I usually ignore the term soulless Euro, but Keeper has me wanting to grab for that low-hanging fruit.
It's JAS. It's just another soulless Euro. It's Jace. JASC. There you go. There's a for you.
I usually balk at that term. I'm like, people telling me they don't like Euros, right?
Yeah.
But this one really makes me reach for that. And it's specifically because everything you do for points in this game has an arbitrary and painfully constricting limit attached to it. The gimmick what I mean by that is every tile that you're going to build is like identical to every other tile that's similar to it. Like there's eight types of animals in the game, and really their only difference is that you can only collect like 4 of each type. And you got to move on to something else. And the only way you get them is like just by going on a spot on the board. It just matters what spot's on the board. They are functionally identical. Anyway, that first of all, I felt like there was a lot of, just fluff that didn't matter. There are gimmicky flip boards that offer little variance, some being literally identical. Worker placement has a following system that encourages banking tons of resources, so who cares? You'll probably need them later, and getting done early lets you start laying down workers for even more resources. What do you know? It results in swings from having nothing to be swimming in what you lacked. And almost everything in this game has 4 identically functioning equivalents whose only difference is cosmetic. That system can work with equivalent resources, but when it's present in so many systems, I'm talking building resources, basic animals, and advanced animals, and gems, it becomes meaningless. It's like the Stone Age of medium Euros. Not even heavy, really. Only even Stone Age made the resources worth different values. So it's weird when a game has me comparing it to Stone Age, and Stone Age is favorable. There are a few glimmers of light here. So, it's not entirely darkness. The claiming worker placement area, so you actually get to claim the areas that people put their workers on to get the workers, is a pretty cool concept because that's what you get for your workers in the next round. But when the boards differed only slightly, it rarely offered decisions. It was just like, I'm going to go to a place on my board because my board has basically all the stuff that your board has. So I don't really care about going to your board or my board. I'll always go to my board because I get those dudes back. The biggest positive with this game is that when I opened it, it smelled better than any other board game I've ever smelled in my life. This game is aromatic to a fault. It smells beautiful. It's like they use like especially infused paint. Anybody? Keeper?
Well, I know a lot of people who like the other titles in this series. That's kind of unusual. I have no desire to play it now, but
well, no. Don't let me shoot it. I'd be interested to see what you say. That's my reaction to it.
Well, have you played any other Keyflower games?
I've played Keyflower a lot. Yeah. I've played Key to the City London, which, believe it or not, I'm one of the few in the camp that's like Key to the City London kind of cleaned up Keyflower for me, and I'd rather play it than Keyflower. But I feel like I'm in a very small group there.
Yeah, it sounds like you are in a small group. The only one I played was the London one.
Yeah,
and
it's fine. It's just it's like Keyflower's like embarrassing cousin that's drunk at the party.
I know. It sounds like Keeper might be that one.
No, yeah, I don't think Keeper. Ironically,
didn't even get invited to the party.
Oh, yeah, just leave him at the door.
Ironically, it's not a Keeper for me.
Okay.
So that's my 5 disappointments, and now we move on to the good stuff.
The
tier 5 is where I started this. So I started at like a level of where these are games that I would consider as like good, borderline great games. Each of them seems to have an element that keeps me from really like desiring them for me, but I feel like these are great games that I would play with other folks or play in the right circumstances. Starting off with The Ruhr, A Story of Coal Trade. I specifically love the advancements that were made in this game for the expansion, the Ohio. When I've played this, the game has definitely gone on longer than I wanted it to go on, and certainly longer than some of the other players that I've played this with wanted it to go on. However, with the Ohio, I think that things were largely cleaned up and things work really smoothly. And the Ruhr is one where I feel like if I could play it 5 or 6 times with the same group, we'd get to this point where we didn't have to, like, things just happened The things that were automatic would happen automatically when people would just know it was the right move. I feel like it's always slowed down in every game I've played, and that's kind of dinged my personal opinion of it. But I really do appreciate the Ruhr the Ohio's side and see that as being like the ideal way to experience an excellent board game, the Ruhr, A Story of Coal Trade.
Oh,
TC, this game has a bunch of dice.
Well, yeah, this is one of the oh God, I can't think of the company. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Capstone.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's one of the games that they published that I've wanted to try. I think the difficulty for me is just finding a group that wants to play it because I want to play it like multiple times.
Yeah, I would recommend that. TC, I have more news for you though. The dice in this game literally never get rolled.
Oh, that's sad. Those are some neglected die. Need some love.
Trent, have you had a chance to try this one?
No. I have not.
All right, moving on to one I believe you have. Another one from Tier 5 here, Anachrony. This has really moved up in the Board Game Geek charts. Very, very highly rated by the community. And for me, Anachrony is a really cool overarching concept. It's fairly standard worker placement to its own detriment. Other game systems tend to impress me more sporadically, and the world creation built around a cataclysmic impact raises it up a notch for me. Overall, the fact that the workers do have different uses in different places, but it's kept to a really concise amount, calls to mind Tricarion. But honestly, I would put Tricarion over Anachrony. That's one of the things I think it's in such a low tier, considering, because I do like Anachrony quite a bit. But some of its expansion elements that it added were kind of hit and miss for me. Some of them I'd always play with. Other ones I don't ever want to play with again. And just overall, though, it was a cool system that I feel like is largely overblown, especially with the gigantic miniatures that are, like the game itself is, in my opinion, not exactly huge like those miniatures. But it is definitely a really cool game system and one that stands in a little bit of the shadow of what I thought was one of the most beautiful games of all time that I've played, Tricarion, and that is Anachrony.
Tricarion is like one of my favorite Euro games ever. I mean, when that game came out and we played it out, I was stunned. I loved it. I loved the little puzzle you made on those cards. And Anachrony's been interesting to watch because when it came out, it was like, it peaked and people were like, oh, it's not that good. And it kind of slid down and now it's coming back up. And so I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to actually play this one because my love for Tricarion makes me want to play this one.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I played it with you, so you know that I played it.
Yeah.
I liked it perfectly well. The miniatures are almost comically overdone. They're just like gigantic and chunky and almost completely unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why you have a Kickstarter game, right?
Yeah, they're giant. But I enjoyed the game. It's a good solid game. I would never turn down a game of Tricarion.
Well, I'm glad to hear you guys.
I wouldn't turn down one of Tricarion, but Anachrony either.
Anachrony. Too late at night. Blah. Anachrony is what I was talking about. It's better than Splendor.
Whoa.
So we've got so let me go our progression. We've got Century Spice Road, then we've got Splendor, and we got Anachrony.
No.
That wasn't
Anachrony is actually a good game. I would happily play Anachrony anytime.
Yeah, those ones are steaming piles that Trent would never play. I'm not saying that I feel that way about Splendor, but I definitely I definitely get your sentiment there, Trent. So get what you're saying.
Well, I'm really glad to hear you talk about this one because it makes me want to go out and play it. As I'm relieved to hear it. It gets me excited again.
Certainly. Well, this next one seems like it's a game that's specifically made to treat dice well. That's called Dice Forge. It's another game in my tier 5 still. So Anachrony, the Ruhr, Dice Forge, all in tier 5. You know that cool feeling that you get at the start of every turn in Catan when those dice are rolled and you're like, ooh, what did I get? And then most of the time it's like, you didn't get anything. Yeah, in Dice Forge, every other player on your turn and you on every other player's turn gets to roll your own personal dice that you have been crafting throughout the game with these really cool removable faces that go on the actual. Actually, they're like screen printed, some sort of screen printing technique that makes these dice actually work. These dice faces where you can pull them off and they don't really rub off easy. Anytime, the dice are going to give you things like income, or there's like 3 different types of income. So you're basically just getting 3 different types of income to buy things, and then buy these cards that'll give you points or let you get a special ability that lets you, buy things easier. It's a pretty simple system. It's has a little bit of that feeling like Mystic Vale, except unlike Mystic Vale, I found this very interesting. I was very disappointed by Mystic Vale. I felt like its game systems were super tacked on. Here in Dice Forge, everything feels tied to like, the idea of like, I rolled, what do I get? It's a really cool, like, to me, an exploration, and it taps into that sort of Catan, something that I remember enjoying because Catan was my gateway into the hobby, and Dice Forge really gets at that. And it has just beautiful production, totally auxiliary. But when you're getting to modify your own dice and roll them this much, it's really just a sweet thing to see happen.
Yeah, this one I've played once. I agree. It's got a beautiful production values. I mean, it's fairly stunning. However, the one time I did play it, I went to go change the die face out, and it shot across the coffee shop, and I spent like 20 minutes trying to find it. So that was because it comes with a little tool to use. I was like, okay, I'll just and the thing just flew like halfway across the top. I'm like, oh crap, guys, I gotta go find this thing. So the game came to a screeching halt because of me. But it's I will agree it is better than Mystic Vale, but it's just, I don't know, there was just something about it that it's one of those games I wouldn't mind playing again. I'd like to play it a bit more to see what it holds, but it's not something I personally would invest in. Mm-hmm. That was my take on it. But I do agree, production values are stellar on this thing. Have you played it, Trent?
Actually, I stepped out for a moment and missed most of what you were talking about.
Dice Forge.
We're talking about Dice Forge.
Oh yes, I played Dice Forge. I've had it. It's actually a hit with my family. My oldest son particularly really liked it.
Have you had any problems with flying dice faces like I did?
Yeah, they're hard to get on and off. I don't know how else you do it without making them so that the dice faces just fall off. You want them to be on firmly when you're playing it, and thus inherently they're going to be difficult to take off. Or if they were easy to take off, they wouldn't stay on firmly while playing. I think it's like you have to do it that way. But yes, there have been dice faces flying all over the house. I haven't lost any, so that's good.
And it is a heck of a lot better than the other dice forging game, which was Rattlebones.
I heard there's a rolling mode.
Yeah, so
I've heard that one was a steaming pile. This one is definitely interesting, but it feels like, it feels a lot like Mystic Vale. So if you thought Mystic Vale was cool, check this one out for sure. I think it's better. I would rather play it. It's got a lot of really ingenious pieces, especially in its production. Like the way that it stores itself is really good too. So that was in Tier 5 Dice Forge. Another game in Tier 5. I almost feel like this is a game that almost shouldn't deserve an entry for this year. This is the last game in Tier 5, and it is Codenames Duet. Simply because making Codenames cooperative and making it work to me was absolutely amazing. I think it's the greatest game. Codenames is the greatest game whose entirety feels like an afterthought to me, but it's really a surprisingly functional and robust cooperative game. It super works well. I really like it. Just puzzling over things and not having the stress of competing with another group, and not having a winner or loser, a loser to have to worry about at your table is something that I always find enjoyable. And it's it can also lead to you and your partner getting mad at each other because you're both losing together now because of how stupid they're being. Anyhow, Codenames Duet is also on Tier 5. I just love Codenames, and this is a game that makes it work for cooperative play.
I found that Codenames Duet was fairly hard.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it is harder than normal Codenames because you've really got to be in good sync with the person you're playing with, or it doesn't go real well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely doing, it's constant engagement. I think it's another thing that I like about it is that it's like you're constantly either thinking about what, giving a clue, or you're, chewing on the actual clue that you've already been given. So, there's there's even less downtime here because you're playing both parts. Maybe that's why I like it. But I agree with you, Trent, that it almost feels like some of the clues I'm like, it's tough to do both of those roles at one time. I feel like I kind of almost lose sight of my own board while I'm considering the clues that I'm getting. So it's difficult, but I think that I admire the challenge. But I totally agree with you.
Haven't played it, but I will give you this, though. Vladil Shavadil is a designer you should always keep your eye on. What this guy comes up with is something else sometimes.
Absolutely. And here's another designer to always keep your eye on, at least now again. 20 years ago it was always keep your eye on. Now, not so much, but I'm going to have to keep my eye on Reiner Knizia because he made an excellent game, and it's actually in a higher tier, tier 4, counting my way down to tier 1. In tier 4, we've got the Quest for El Dorado. It is what I would choose as a deck building entry point. It's the perfect gateway deck builder. I love Dominion, but it can be tough for a first deck building game, given that progress is obscured in the deck that you build. You can't see your cards in there. Also, raising the bar for entry is the ever-changing card offering, which frequently features cards with obtuse effects that perplex new players. I'm still referring to Dominion. El Dorado's smaller card draw and linear board helps players see where they are and what they need their deck to give them to progress. Other deck builders have tried to be on new players' levels by shuffling all the cards you can buy and making the offering random. Random isn't inherently easier or harder, it's just random. The only randomness in El Dorado is your card draw. The linear path occasionally branches and frequently puts players in each other's way. The potential setups offer a sort of designer sandbox. I never would have imagined this would be the way Knizia would recapture my attention, but I'm happy he's back.
Yeah, every time I notice now, every time I pass this on the rental shelf, it's got that big gold mask that just stares at me and says, "You need to take me home with you," and it just stares at me the whole night. But yeah, the more you talk about this, I think my biggest reason I never even tried it was because it was a Knizia game. I was like, oh, great, here's another game with just some mechanics with this light, fluffy theme kind of thrown on as an afterthought. But the more, like I said, you're selling me on it. And one of these days, it's going to come home with me.
Theme for this, TC. I think you will actually find yourself you'll find that this game feels fairly thematic. And I know Knizia has a couple of really thematic feeling games, and this to me would be an example of one where he really scored on that. That's not what attracts me necessarily, but it's something that makes it even a better gateway game.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm going to be trying out here pretty quick. And this one would have flown completely under the radar for me if you haven't been so persistent on it.
Yeah, I have hopes for Knizia as of late, given this and the game that I'm very tempted to hype.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh. Preview.
yeah, spoiler alert. Next up on my list, still in Tier 4. We're in Tier 4 here, working our way up. Mythic Battles Pantheon. It is an elegant deck management system, and it meets a robustly equipped simple miniatures battle game. Myths are integrated seamlessly into the design. Though it relies on D6s for combat, the ability to use non-misses to boost other dice values raises Mythic Battles Pantheon above most dice chuckers. It would be much higher if this was my cup of tea. So, take it for what it is. It is excellent at what it's going for. It succeeds on every level. If it was more for me, it would probably be edging other folks out of their potential customer base.
Mythic Battles. Okay, I'll have to keep an eye on it.
I saw you playing it once. Looked good.
Yeah, I would say that the only thing we tried playing a cooperative. There's so many scenarios. There's a ton of scenarios for this game, and there's like 15 of them printed in the book, and there's even a mini campaign. And with expansions, you can get more campaigns. We tried a cooperative scenario, and it really felt, I don't know, like it was an interesting exploration, but it took out a lot of what I loved about the game to make it cooperative and to somehow make it work. So, I think it's really best as that tabletop skirmish miniatures battle game. It's going to be easy to teach, but it has this, like I said, an elegant, simple deck management system that I really loved. Still in Tier 4, I already reviewed it, so I'm not going to go in depth. This War of Mine, the board game. It's, like I said, I've already reviewed it. I got all this right up, and I'm just going to skip over it. So, anyhow, that's still in Tier 4, This War of Mine, the board game. Moving on up, another one in Tier 4 is, and this one I had a really, really hard time placing on the list at all, because, just the style of game is difficult to call a top game of all time because it doesn't last all time. This is Unlock, the Escape Adventures, so the Unlock system of escape room style games. is what I'm putting on here. They are one-shot games. They're, like I said, really tough to put on here. However, Unlock has a great tutorial to get you set up. It uses its features to take you places a real escape room wouldn't dare. My favorites are the cartoon world of Squeak and Sausage and the underwater wreckage of the Nautilus traps among its different places that it takes you. So it really does bust out of just an escape room. I feel like Exit is probably the best one to go to if you're primarily playing for the puzzles. And, you know, like, for me, I like the puzzles, but I really like the environment that it's able to create and unlock, and I don't feel that quite as much in the Exit games. I feel like Deckscape was kind of a weird mix of them both, but it was very simple in its design. Like, had a very simple... Anyhow, I put Unlock on here. I would say Deckscape comes really close to Unlock, and I like Exit as well for kind of a different reason, because I love those puzzles. But anyway, this is, you know, think of this as like escape room games are an excellent game system that I'm going to keep playing. I enjoy quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying some of those unlocked ones, but I think Exit's going to trump it because it's got the Pharaoh's Tomb.
Ooh, well, they might.
And Chris is still looking for that one.
Yeah, well, if you get the Secret Island of Dr. Gourse, it does. I think you'll at least find it's got a pyramid.
Okay. Hey, Carissa.
I think you'd like that one. It's tough, though. It's hard. It's real hard. And you're supposed to play in like 2 separate groups. I would not recommend it for your first game.
Okay.
Okay, moving on up. Still in Tier 4 here. I'm going to talk about Fog of Love. I feel like my Tier 4 was like almost like story-driven games specifically. Like, you know, the games that are excellent games that aren't ones I would normally be putting on my top 10 list. You know, I feel like I'm always looking for this sort of perfect strategic experience. But, you know, these games are really challenging me, and I love them. And like I said, they are remarkable games that I absolutely love playing. Love the experience I get from them. So I need a whole separate category for Fog of Love. It excels so much at what it does, and what it does is so different than anything else on the market. It's seen my wife, a non-gamer, go as far as to roleplay. It's inspired me to reflect on relationships in general. It makes semi-co-op actually work for me, which I previously thought impossible. It's mechanically solid, where the real skill is in not only reading your partner, but also choosing between her or him, yourself, and your future together.
I think we should play this together.
That's so creepy. It would be so weird. So weird.
Yeah. And we'll record it.
I just don't know.
Right.
Well, that's Fog of Love. It is one, like, you know, it's one that my wife just totally loves. Moving up, we are now moving to the next tier. That is in Tier 3. We're starting to really get into the meat of, like, you know, these games are close to my heart. In putting these tiers, I tried to sort of make it, you know, at the top of the list is almost like my favorite style of game, and thus I love those ones more, and I see those as more of an accomplishment just by virtue of how much design and effort is put into them. Here we're at Tier 3, where these are like games that I'm like, you know, as soon as I say the name of them, I'm like, ooh, everything starts swimming through my head about the interesting decisions I make. And the first one is Mini Rails, a great entry point for stock-based games and for route building or cube rails style games as well. I love the variable setup and the emphasis on turn order manipulation. Maybe had King Domino tried 2 pieces instead of 1 outside of its 2-player game, like Mini Rails does for how it works with you choosing 2 different actions, maybe King Domino would have actually worked for me. Anyway, it's not that I hate it, but, you know, it's not showing up on this list. Mini Rails, though, you know, really excellent entry point for stock-based games. You never have to really do any math, even though it includes stock. That's something really special, and that's Mini Rails.
Have you played this one, Trent?
Yes, I was actually, I believe I was the one that taught it to Joe. So,
yeah, I've only played Trent's copy.
Oh, okay.
It's I really like it. It's a fantastic light Rails game. I mean, that's what it is. It takes a lot of the essence of what you might like about a Rails game and boils it down to like 20 minutes. I'm really impressed with it.
Mm-hmm. Next up will be still in Tier 3. Caverna Cave versus Cave. Now, you will see no Caverna, no base game Caverna on any list that I've ever made, except for maybe disappointments or games that shouldn't exist, in my humble opinion. However, Caverna Cave versus Cave fixes the tension-destroying adventure system of Caverna, instead supplanting it with player-driven tableau building. The system is tightened without ever penalizing players. A complete game as well, unlike Agricola All Creatures Big and Small. That's the 2-player version of Agricola that I like quite a bit but needs an expansion. And Caverna Cave versus Cave, though it is complete as a game itself, I would love to see some expansions for it.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Me and Carissa played this one, and I like the rotating the caves and trying to fit things in, and the track order. You got to pick the tiles on it. It was good. I was pleasantly surprised with this one.
And
Trent doesn't care.
Pass.
Pass.
I liked it, and I think that it should never have been called anything associated with Caverna because it feels nothing like Caverna.
Okay.
That's the truth. Yeah. Caverna was the one where it's just like a spread of everything, and you're like, oh, you can't take that. I'll take that. Take that. Take that.
I mean, seriously, it's almost like I like it less because it says Caverna on the box.
We just have to put a big piece of tape over it. It's a game of caves.
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it. It's a good 2-player game, but man, I don't know what it has nothing to do with Caverna. It was obviously named that to try to sell it, I guess.
Nice. Well then, moving up here, still in tier 3, still counting up our way to tier number 1 with my favorite games of 2017. I'm at Rajas of the Ganges. Rajas of the Ganges rises above simple worker placement due to cool combos, well-managed dice as a resource, and a touch of private network building. It even comes with some small expansions that I'm yet to try. Side note, and this is kind of separate. I don't feel like I can really give this game specific points, but man, once this game is set up, the time spent resetting between rounds is like nothing. Like, it just feels like a real race for the finish without anything to pull you from the experience. Everything that you're doing in this game is trying to get the amount of income and money that you have, which you're going to be spending, to meet kind of like your overall points, which scores, every $2 is essentially worth a point when you think of it that way. But you're trying to get these 2 markers to meet, and the game just ends. And it has, for that reason, it can feel like kind of like an anticlimactic finish where you're just like, oh, well, the game's over. Can I do anything? Nope. Okay. Good game. You don't get to like pull off your last combo that you've been planning for a few turns, which can be a little bit frustrating, and I know that very disheartening. But it is just like a really easy and simple to use system that has those cool combos. But I was able to teach it to my wife, and she truly enjoyed it. So, kind of like one of those weird games where everything in it just makes sense. It's very intuitive, very easy once it gets set up to keep playing. One that I really enjoy it, and that's why it's in my tier 3. So, we're talking 9 through 12 if you want to number things on my board game, top board games of the year.
I haven't even heard of this one. I'll have to look at this one.
I don't know how much.
Trent, I know you played it.
I like it. I think it needs more replays. I like the dual track system. I thought that was very clever. I like the way that it worked. It did feel a little engine building-y to me a little bit, and that it felt like the game started accelerating after a while.
Oh,
like
sure.
At first you're kind of inching along on both tracks, and then all of a sudden you're going zoom.
Yep. Oh yeah, I had one turn where I made like the equivalent of $27, like all in one action. It was like I made like 12 points and $3 or $5, whatever, and it was like every other player at the table was like I can't do anything like that. So it was cool. Caroline beat me in our first game though. So, and I was not putting on the gloves or anything. It was a good game. And that to me says there's something really special and very intuitive about the design, because it kept me entertained while still, offering her a system that she could grasp. So That's tier 3, and that's there's one more actually left in tier 3. So I guess it's my games 8 through 12, and the last game in tier 3 is Sagrada. Sagrada is a beautiful dice drafting system, like a simplified Grand Austria hotel with variable setups and a scoring a la Kingdom Builder. The specific tools and scoring cards are a bit samey because all those things I just mentioned, if you know how much I love, like those that's the laundry list of all the perfect things for me, you know, like variable setups and scoring and dice drafting, kind of like Grand Austria Hotel is really cool. But, you know, all in all, the whole package works for a great thinky gateway with beautiful art.
Well, I've heard really mixed things on this one. There's some people that I game with who absolutely loathe this game, and there's people who I game with who absolutely love it. And I have not had a chance to try it, but man, all those dice, I really want to play this game. It's just way too many dice for me to not get my hands on this thing.
Trent, have you had a chance to play Sagrada?
Nope, I haven't played it.
Okay. On to tier 2 now. We are into the first games in tier 2. Tier 2 is actually pretty small. I think it's only 3 games. So
sad.
Yeah. But we're at tier 2 now, on our way up to 1. And my tier 2 starts off with a game I had very, very low expectations for, but holy crap. Pandemic Rising Tide. It
Booyah!
is the previous Pandemic Iberia, which would be the last sort of like heritage pandemic game where it's kind of set in a specific time period with specific, you know, like in a specific geographic location, in this case, the Netherlands. The previous Pandemic Iberia was like a Pandemic 1.5. It had a new board and a few new mechanics. However, Rising Tide burst through any expectations I had by having central mechanics that behave different than pandemic diseases, but behave just as dangerous. Water behaves like you imagine it would, flowing from its entry points and fanning out to unblocked territories. And the real challenge is that while water is the antagonist, you benefit by having a manageable amount on the board for many of your included roles and your ability to pump water. You can never let those pumps run dry. Here, you're doing more constructing the infrastructure necessary to manage water than just pumping it out. You're going to build engines and run it every turn. The engine you'll build is unheard of in my pandemic experience. I had no idea that a system like Pandemic could be applied to other forces of nature in such an interesting way. And add to that a totally new variable objective system, which immediately creates a mountain of replayability. And I'm sold. This is in my tier 2. This is in, like, you know, my games would be numbers 5 through 7. You know, it's just absolutely amazing. Loved Pandemic Rising Tide. Could not believe how well it made water behave in this game. You know, check this one out. Seriously. Even if you're not a Pandemic fan, I still say try this.
Okay. I'm going to try it. This just recently came out like a,
yeah. I've only got a couple of plays in of it. Yeah, and it really is my latest addition to the list. I had the list all ready to go, had everything in order, and then I added Pandemic Rising Tide after I got 2 plays in of it, and I just want to keep trying it, man. There is like I said, variable objectives. Like, you can cure the 4 diseases, which in this game are actually hydraulic projects that all have different effects when you beat them, when you finally complete them. Or you can focus on there's 8 more objectives. You can shuffle this deck of 12 objectives, play with a totally different game. You know, the game is the same, but your goals are different. It's just beautiful. You know, you still have the same replayability you'd expect from other Pandemic games, but to me, this is up a notch. Totally up a notch. Okay,
one of my gamers is a huge Pandemic fan, and I'm sure I'm gonna be seeing this sooner or later because he loves Pandemics. I'm gonna push this on him, be like, go get this thing. I want to try it.
Best Pandemic, period. Also, if your friend is expecting this to work like ordinary Pandemic, play it on easy with them because he won't do it right.
Okay,
don't surprise him.
Okay, here.
No,
I'll check. Okay, I'll be sure. I'll be sure.
Oh, we
play Pandemic really well. We could play this on hard. No, Mike. No, I've heard we need to scale this back a bit.
So to tell you, TC, like, this game was so ridiculous. Like, one of the cards, so you know how Pandemic has events? One of the cards in this game is the little Dutch boy. Yes, Yes, exactly what you're thinking.
Where he sticks his.
Yep. That was an event. And here's what happened. We had the win of the game. We had it all mathed out, right? And we were barely going to make it. We only had like 3 cards left in the player deck. We were barely going to get there, but we were going to win. And there was a chance. Oh no, there was 8 cards left in the player deck, but if it went all the way around, we were going to lose. That's how it went. So we had to win now. There was a 1 in 4 chance that we were going to draw one of the epidemic cards, which is not an epidemic in this game. It's called a storm. And they happen more frequently, and they actually raise the level of the sea, which is just totally different. Anyway, so first card that this guy draws for his 2-card draw is the little Dutch boy. And we're all like, oh, great. We're basically going to win now. Next card he draws is the storm, the last storm and the highest storm. Our sea levels rose to 4 cubes, which spills out across the board. We were literally 2 water cubes away from being able to put all the water on the board and be okay. But with what we ran out of water and we ended up losing the game. It's just like we were that close to the finish line. Literally, the last thing that happened, because on the next turn, first action would have been, boom, build the last hydraulic pump, game over. We win.
Okay.
It's just so epic, man. Such an epic conclusion. The little Dutch boy drowned.
Well, I'm looking forward to this one. Okay.
Yep. That's my first one in tier 2, man. And really, like, 2017, what an amazing year. So many hard hitters. A lot of them happened right at the end of the year, but a lot of them were wrapped around the beginning and the end of the year. We had kind of a lull there through the summer, but man, next up on my list, Aeon's End War Eternal. Still in tier 2. Well, basically, my thing for this is simple. I love Dominion, and this is a feature-rich cooperative Dominion.
Aeon's End?
Oh, yeah, dude. You've not tried Aeon's End?
No.
It's like Dominion. You have like the card stack to choose from, but you're playing against a shuffled up enemy, and you're all cooperating. You have like variable player powers. You never shuffle your cards. You only ever take your card deck and turn it over, like Time of Crisis. Time of Crisis, you just get to pick your cards in Time of Crisis, like Rococo. But in this one, you have to actually turn it over. So the order is fixed, but you determine that order. Turn to turn. It's an excellent game, TC. You got to check it out, man. Aeon's End. Very, very good. Trent, have you had any experience with it?
Yep, quite like it.
All right. My last one in tier 2, Clans of Caledonia. It's like a streamlined trade economy imagining of Terra Mystica. It gives me 80% of what I love about Terra Mystica, while the remaining 20% is a fairly benign recipe-making game that works because of the rest of its pieces. Plus, I can teach this, and people will enjoy their first game, and I will still enjoy it too, because it's not that simple, unlike Terra Mystica, which you'll hear later on up the list might not be coming out very much. Anyway, that's Clans of Caledonia, a game I really do enjoy, especially because for what you invest, you get a ton out of it, but it's still in tier 2, so not quite tier 1.
Oh, okay.
Anything,
nope,
Trent?
I have not even played this one.
It's a good Terra Mystica. It's a more economic Terra Mystica. That's about all I have to say about it.
Fair enough. It's also got Scottish theme that I know sells a lot of new players as well. So finally, we're down to my top tier, tier 1 of my top 10. And the first game on this list is Iberian Rails. This is probably the game that you'll see highest on my list. It is, you're right, sharing a spot with all these other games. So it is the highest game that you'll see on my list that is probably on very few, if any other lists out there. And I think that's an absolute travesty at this point. It's my pick for underappreciated game of the year. It mixes cube rails with role selection, adds replayability, and creating a design space in which simple rules create an unbelievable amount of depth.
When the designer said his favorite game was Rex, I am really to tear down the door to find this game now. That's all he had to say.
You might have to do more than tear down the door, man. You might have to wait for the ice bridge to cross the Bering Strait, because it's fortunately over in the eastern continents.
Yeah. But yeah,
I liked it a lot, but I haven't played it enough to really make up my mind how high I would rank it.
Well, Trent,
I need more plays.
Yeah, that's the solution. You know, you got a disease. You need more plays.
Yep.
The only cure. Next up here, sharing a spot with Iberian Rails is Gaia Project. Gaia Project is Terra Mystica set in space. Terra Mystica is in my top 3 games. Now it's starting to look like old socks because of how excellent Gaia Project has developed every piece present in Terra Mystica. Shipping and terraforming now matter more. The cult track has 6 diverse tracks with a host of rewards. Games room are varied due to unique favorite tile upgrades. Everything I loved about Terra Mystica is here, and now it's better.
Yeah, this is another one I really, really want to play, because the first time I ever played Terra Mystica, the first thought that ran through my head was this would make a much better sci-fi game about colonizing planets. And as soon as this thing was announced, I was like, oh, the only thing holding me back is the price tag on it. But I know a few people who have it, and I'm just waiting for them to open a game group up because I really want to experience this thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a better Terra Mystica.
Yeah,
Terra Mystica is one of my favorite Euros. So
yeah, it is just it is that's a monumental statement you're making there, Trent. Few words, but they mean a lot, and I am right there with you. Next up here on Tier 1 as well is Spirit Island. It's a miracle of asymmetry. It sports a theme that gives me the feels. Choices are layered so much that alpha gaming is virtually impossible, despite it being a co-op without any specific rule or game system preventing it. A great idea that was developed into something truly monumental. And I sign off here in my written review with Neurosis grumbles in the darkness. Apparently I thought that was funny. So, Spirit Island, just holy crap. Like, this is a game that I had no idea, and it just took me by surprise, took me by storm. And to me, it is one of those games where if I said, I feel like it's a desert island game, basically.
Yeah, the hype on this one's been pretty big. I've been following this one. Mainly you talking about it and other podcasters yakking about it, but I actually got to see a copy. It looks really, really nice, and the theme seems really intriguing. And in fact, that's a co-op game that has won you over. Makes me think that I'm gonna have to run this down sooner rather than later. But now I've got Rising Tide, I've got Iberian Rails, and I still got to listen to the other 3 you're probably going to mention.
I only got one more, man. I'm down to 1.
Okay.
But before I get to there, I want Trent to give his 2 cents.
This is Pandemic, really well done with a really good variable player powers, like rich variable player powers. You feel like you actually have decisions regarding who you are.
Yep.
And that makes it very interesting. It makes it a very enjoyable game.
Yeah, it's not just I'm this guy, thus I do this. Within your player power, you have different paths and different decisions to make based on, what you're evaluating as being the best path for you to go. There's not just a scripted start to this game, even though you have variability, which is just crazy. And now, the last game in Tier 1. So I guess it's a little bit less climactic than other lists that just kind of work towards this. But honestly, like these games in this tier, I don't think I'm going to be redoing my top 100 games or however many games, because I just don't like the number being assigned to every single one. I know that that's popular. I know that others love that, and it creates some sort of drama and makes people feel like, oh, well, now I only have to get these games, as opposed to all the other games because these are the top 5. No, there's it's never that simple. And so I had 4 games in my Tier 1, and the last one of those is probably pretty easy for Trent to guess. Gloomhaven. And my saying about that is short. Despite what my role-playing friends think, I'm not allergic to a good story. I just expect a solid game from my tabletop experiences. Gloomhaven lets me have theme and story together with mechanical depth. That's why it belongs here on Tier 1. It has more work put into it than probably an entire battery of storytelling games of a different style, And what I mean by that is like a game and 10 expansions would have still less content than what you get in the 1 box of Gloomhaven.
Yeah, Gloomhaven. We finally got the we didn't get the initial print run. We got the second print run off Kickstarter.
Sure.
And I was blown away by the amount of content in that box. I mean, what you get in that is what Fantasy Flight with Descent is going to charge you over $400 for. And that's over months of expansions and little figures you buy and everything else. And then add on top of the value a really intriguing card-based combat system. Wow,
it's everything at once, man. It's everything at once,
and it's even got a slight legacy feel to it because you can only get new characters if you retire your previous one. So like opening up a new box, like, ooh, what's this new character gonna be? Because you just have the symbol, right? Oh, it's nuts. And then what's even crazier about the whole thing is the only board in that board game is a track you use to put stickers on to see where you can go. Other than that, it's useless. The whole
it's literally just a map. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a board map. I mean, I didn't even know you liked this game, and I played it. And I was like, holy crap, Joe has to play this thing. You have got to look at this. This is unbelievable. Like, yeah, it's already my number one. I'm like, okay, I'm late to the party. But still, I just can't believe the value. I mean, it's just absurd, the value in that box.
Well, that pretty much does it. I know Trent's feelings on Gloomhaven are very mixed.
Yes, and I'm not gonna poop on the party, so we'll leave it at that. I have mixed feelings on Gloomhaven, and we'll leave it there.
Certainly, yeah. Well, when everybody is going as crazy as they have been going, I would like to just point out, Trent, I started going crazy before anybody else started going crazy. You know, I now have this weird feeling like, you know, my top game on my list is the same game on the top of Tom Vassal's list. And, you know, so now I just can't constantly crap on him anymore. No, it's totally like kidding there, but it's just strange because that's the beauty of Gloomhaven, is that it can take somebody like me who's, you know, has such a different taste, but bring us together for that, especially at the top of our lists. You know, somebody like Tom Vassal who's been reviewing for so long and seen so many games. It's crazy. So anyhow, it's about time for us to kick into our hype section. And
right.
I'd like to hear, why don't you go, TC? You seem a little excited here.
Oh, I'm very excited. I finally got a copy of Dungeon Pets, which came off a recommendation from you, Joe. And as for Kate to play. And ever since you mentioned it, Kate's been like, I want to try it. I'm like, well, I don't know. It does seem really heavy, but I got a copy. We put it together. I am very excited. I know it's an older game. It came out in 2011. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, oh my God, this game's 5 years, almost, 5-6 years old at this point.
7 years old now.
I seem to recall when this game came out. Holy cow. Can't believe I waited this long to actually try it out. But, oh, it looks fantastic. The rules seem pretty. It's a heavy game, but it seems all the rules and actions of the game tie into the theme, so it may not be as complicated to learn. And it's something that Kate will be invested in. And the artwork, oh my goodness, the artwork in this thing, those pets are awesome. Those pets are, and even in the rule book, each pet has its own description. Like there's Fuzzy and Snake Kitty, which Kate was like, just like, look, that Snake Kitty, yay. I haven't seen Kate this enthusiastic about a game in a very long time, so I'm quite excited to try this one out.
I really hope it goes well. The same artist did Iberian Rails and Dungeon Lords.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, I even mentioned Kate was like, well, I want to play a game where I can be evil. I'm like, well, there's this other game called Dungeon Lords.
You have the evilometer. You literally have an evil meter.
Yeah, I told her that's like, you can be evil.
That's going to be her step into Euro games, man, because it's like Euro game evil. You know, it's like you're evil, but everything evil is kind of in a system that interacts in an interesting way, which is a hallmark of Euro games. So, yes, TC, yes, us.
And then, you know, this is going to be good because I think this has reignited a passion for, because I like Euro games, I really do. And then like, oh, good, a good theme, a great designer, and my family's invested in it. Yes. Oh, I can't wait till next week to talk about this one. Hype.
Yay. Well, I'm really happy to hear you say that, man. I'm glad you were able to track down a copy too. That probably wasn't anything easy.
That wasn't too difficult, but yeah, I was just, oh yeah. I could tell you, if I could bring Kate in right now and talk about it, she'd just be like, just blah, 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 blah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for that, TC. That's Dungeon Pets. Again, by Vlada, however you say his name. And now up, it's going to have to be Trent because mine kind of dovetail off of yours.
Okay, mine is going to be Yellow and Yonsei by Rainer Knizia. It's basically, he describes it as a sequel to Tigris and Euphrates. And Tigris and Euphrates is one of my favorite games I've ever played. I deeply, deeply love that game. It's one of his 90s titles that I absolutely love. The difference with this one is it seems to be rather than 4 different colors, players are trying to manage 5 different colors. And rather than square tiles, you have hex tiles. Other than that, from what I can tell, it seems fairly similar. So I'm really looking forward to at least, very least trying this. It's supposed to come out at Gen Con. And it is absolutely probably it's almost assuredly going to be the first thing I try when I walk into that dealer hall.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I got to say.
Which tickets are now on sale for?
Yep, already got them. I'll be there.
So Trent, I must have got a little confused here. I had that you were going to hype Tokyo Metro, because we missed out on that from last week.
I honestly got confused as to which week we were on. So. Because
Cool.
we already have notes worked on for the next episode. So
we do, yeah. We're a little bit ahead of time on that one. Yep. So the games I'm going to talk about are the so there right now is a Kickstarter running that has Tokyo. It's like a Tokyo series, I think is what it's called, by Jordan Draper, who is a designer where like his favorite game is Container. Which if you're familiar with Container and you like economic games, it's like one of the classics of economic games. And he designs games that are kind of in that same style, but tend to have more designy elements to it. Container's more freeform than Jordan's designs tend to be, but you can tell very much where his heart lies. And the Tokyo game series is just spans the entire hobby genre, I would say, just all genres in the hobby. You go from dexterity games and silly fast take that games in this package that involves like a drink machine that's really like a dice tower that you drop drinks in. And then the other games are like there's one of them that's like a dexterity game as well that's about building up your weird building as fast as you can. And then finally Tokyo Metro is like a stock. It looks kind of like a Winsome or Cube Rail style game, except you're playing on the Tokyo Metro. And it involves you taking actions from these card decks that sort of cascade downwards, almost in like a Lorenzo El Magnifico way, but you're not buying the cards, you're just taking an action on the card, and that action continues to go down until it finally resets, and you go through different phases of different actions. So anyhow, I'm really, really excited for the entire Tokyo series, and it's one of those where it's the only thing right now on Kickstarter I'm backing at the moment, but I'm backing it for the whole kit and caboodle.
Me too.
Wow. Okay.
So they really excited for that. And actually, gentlemen, we are at the ending point.
Yeah.
We actually, even though I was really worried here that we were going to go over time, we've actually made this one of the shorter episodes we've done recently. So that's a bit refreshing.
We're getting better.
Yeah, it helps when I have everything kind of like planned and written down beforehand. That's not always going to happen. But anyhow, that's my top games of 2017. I would love to hear your comments. You can send me comments or your own list. I would be really curious, and you might see a contest coming out fairly soon where I'm not going to announce anything official, but just now, unofficially, send me what your top games of the year were to goodboardugly@gmail.com, and I'd love to start a dialogue with you there. Or you could just send it to me on Board Game Geek. If you're in the Good Board Ugly Guild or the Longview Guild, you'll see my posts there and be able to contact me that way. I'd love to hear what our community here at the Good, the Board, and the Ugly is loving about this last year. And, I think that it's the type of year that's going to keep me going for a long, long time in terms of excellent designs that I was able to play. So Anyway, thank you guys so much for being a part of this. I'm the host of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, Joe Sallen. I've been joined by TC Reed out in Portland. Thanks for joining me, TC.
You're welcome.
And Trent Ham here, my faithful co-host from my local group.
Hello. Goodbye.
Hello. Goodbye.
Hello, goodbye. Hello, goodbye. That's been this episode of The Good, the Bored, the Ugly. Hope you have a great week of gaming and catch us next week on The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.